Hello, a warm welcome to everyone to this PeopleCert DevOps Fundamentals Training and Certification Program. This is a full stack of culture, practices, and automation. Uh, Congratulations, it's a fantastic decision to have come to the PeopleCert Training and Certification. In fact, the content of PeopleCert is by far the best in terms of practicality. You can actually carry this PeopleCert DevOps content back into your office and start adopting the DevOps practices. It's that simple. So once again, warm welcome to this program on the PeopleCert DevOps Fundamentals Training and Certification. So we have this material as a copyrighted material from PeopleCert. PeopleCert is a global leader in training and certifications across the globe with more than 500 exams with 2,000 accredited trainings. PeopleCert has both web and paper-based exams in over 25 languages, and it is delivered across 200 countries every year. So we will start with introducing yourself, your name, the organizations where you work, and the role what you perform. So that would be a great start to this program. So we'll have start and end times. Participation becomes very essential. So we'll have appropriate breaks in between. And we will have some kind of a questionnaire in between the sessions to enhance our learning capabilities in terms of the practices and principles we understand with respect to DevOps. And then you post your queries in terms of any clarifications required. So having said that, we'll have a 5-module program content. We'll start with an introduction, then we go on to module 1 to understand why companies across the globe adopt DevOps. What is the need and what is the urgency to adopt DevOps? Then we look at the key principles and concepts which makes DevOps. We will look at the full stack in terms of people and culture to start with in module 3. Then we will go into the processes and practices, again, part of the full stack in module 4. Then we will look at one of the key things talked today on the technology and automation with respect to the full stack of DevOps in module 5. And then we will have a wrap up and review in terms of DevOps maturity assessment. So we'll have a great idea about what it is and what it's not. To get started, we are all in the age of too much. Time, speed, and reach has become today's buzzwords. And of course, thanks to the proliferation of internet and smartphones. So if you look at the last 30 years or so, the software industry itself has grown leaps and bounds. The way software was developed in terms of the complexity of the projects and the way the software is developed now in terms of the complexity of the projects, there is a lot of difference. One of the biggest myths in respect to DevOps is whenever people talk about DevOps, they immediately talk about, or they immediately kind of categorize DevOps into automation. They categorize DevOps into a collection of tools, a tool chain. Yeah, certainly it is. DevOps is about automation, is about tool chains, but there is a lot more to DevOps than just about automation and tool chain. So this training and certification will precisely focus on, okay, what aspects of DevOps, how do we adopt DevOps, and what constitutes DevOps. So we will start with trying to understand what DevOps is. So while we get started, as I was talking about the myths of DevOps. So what does DevOps mean to you right now? It is something you can just jot down on a piece of paper, or even you can have it in your mind. So that's a good exercise to get started with. So we will start trying to define what DevOps is. DevOps is a coined noun. It's used to describe a kind of an evolution of existing IT best practices. taken from the ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, the lean practices, lean and agile practices, into a development and operations approach. So what DevOps principally is an aggregated combination of the existing IT best practices taken from ITIL world, taken from lean and agile, into a development and operations approach that kind of supports automation, supports continuous delivery, and encourages the culture of collaboration. And most importantly, it encourages a culture of learning. Why does it do? It does it to help IT deliver business value better, faster, cheaper than ever before. So DevOps is definitely a software development and delivery process. So the emphasis is on communication, it's on collaboration between all the stakeholders, from the project managers, the software development team, the IT support team. So what DevOps does is it introduces agile development methods into software-defined infrastructure and operations. So if you look at the global definitions of DevOps, one of the great, or rather a good definition from Gartner is DevOps kind of represents a change in IT culture, which focuses on rapid IT service delivery through the adoption of agile lean practices in the context of what they call it as a system-oriented approach. DevOps does emphasize on people, it does emphasize on culture, that means. So it seeks to improve the collaborations between operations and development team. And that's a fantastic definition of DevOps. And this definition is the one that underpins this, the core of this training and certification. So it kind of illustrates the concepts of what we call the full stack, but that is going to be the one which we are going to focus all throughout this training and certification. So what DevOps is? DevOps is more of a movement. It's a philosophy. It's an ideology. It's about the relationship between the development and the operations team. It certainly encourages the IT operations to interact with the development team, and it encourages the development team to interact with IT service teams or the IT operations teams. So during the definition of DevOps, we said it's about communication and collaboration, and it uses automation. And of course, there are tool chains. So we will look at about the tool chains as we go through the program. DevOps fundamentally is about balancing speed and change. So within the development on one hand, and the reliability and stability required by the operations team on the other hand. So what it essentially means is the development team looks at balancing the speed and incorporating the customer changes into the software development. Whereas the operations team's focus is going to be more on reliability and stability of the software, what they provided back to the customer. So each of them, each of these stakeholders, the development team and the service operations team, have a specific objective. So DevOps tries to balance between them. So there is a question people ask, is DevOps a title? Yeah, well, DevOps is definitely a methodology. So it is not a job description actually. So we don't call our developers as agile engineers. We just call them as software developers or software engineers. So these engineers and developers happen to follow the agile methodology, but their job description isn't to do agile. It's to create awesome products. So DevOps should be embedded into the fabric of every company. So DevOps does not equal tools. So you would not ask for a DevOps engineer with 5 years of experience in Jeff or Puppet, or sort of, it sounds more of an oxymoron. So DevOps is a term for a group of concepts which are not new at all. So we will try and see what are those concepts or what are those aspects of DevOps, which has been taken from a collaborative approach between the ITIL, Lean, and Agile, and so on. DevOps is built on collective experience. So that's a very fundamental thing to understand and know. DevOps is built on collective experiences. So if you look at the adoption of DevOps across the globe, yes, it is there. I mean, from the web pioneers to financial services to the retail to the entertainment and the governments across the globe have all adopted DevOps. So DevOps originally kind of evolved organically. I mean, so what to say, from those working in IT who recognized and articulated the problems and proposed the solutions, and then coming together to further refine them over a period of time. So it was way back in 2013, to be more precise. Three gentlemen by name Gene Kim, George Sappord, and Kevin Baer published uh, the most influential novel called titled The Phoenix Project, which chronicled the problems facing the IT and the way in which DevOps techniques could be used to address them. So in the following years, DevOps continued to provide a positive impact to IT across the globe. And today, DevOps is more a buzzword. I mean, I think it's beyond a buzzword now. It is globally adopted, and companies and teams who have adopted DevOps have seen the benefits across. Now, if we'll have take this exercise again. So when we started, we said what DevOps might mean to you at that point of time. And now having kind of a brief bird's eye view into the definitions of DevOps. So what DevOps might mean for you and your organizations? So is a key thing to understand. So we look at the DevOps full stack. So what is DevOps full stack? DevOps full stack is about culture. It's about the practices, what we adopt to develop and deliver software to our customers. And of course, the use of what we call the technology in terms of automation. So when we look at DevOps as a full stack, it's about culture. And necessary, it's about the people, what we are talking about. It's about those practices we adopt to develop and deliver the software to our customers. So that's what we call the practices. And of course, we use and consume technology in terms of automation, in terms of the tool chains. So that becomes what we call the DevOps full stack. So with this kind of, this is a quick introduction we have in terms of trying to define what DevOps is. So if you have any queries, do not hesitate and please email to info@oneworldtraining.com. So we'd be more than happy to understand and clarify your queries.